Yovo, Africans. Mawufe Numeto Le. Mawufe Numeto is an African person. Le makes it plural. This is the host of Àgèlògbàgàn Agbovi the First. Sitting here on this beautiful last day of the month of Gufon, our month, in our authentic Vodun calendar. And, we wanted to speak to you about this subject about who can worship African deities. This should not even be a discussion. There are many people in African traditions that are African people who want to accept non-Africans. They not only want to accept them, but they seek them out, so to speak. They seek them out, and that shows a problematic issue with self-esteem and what they've accepted from their oppressor. If you see us looking off a little bit, we're out here on this beautiful trail. We're having to watch out, make sure no Yovos creep up on us. Here's the simple matter of it. First of all, we got to get rid of that we all come from Africa thing, right? Another thing, meaning, white folks come from us. Yovo come from us. That is incorrect. That is absolutely incorrect. They've even done studies showing that, these newer studies, they keep them on the low, that says they do not descend from the same common ancestor as us. They want to usurp that, and say they do so they can have some legitimacy as humans. But the only humans are the ones that developed the DNA that we have that come from what we call Mawufe, what is now called Africa. So we have to get rid of that myth about we all come from the same spot. However, if you have to hold on to that, if that's your one, here is something that somebody probably never ever told you, you've never thought about. People that are going to vibe with this are going to be like, wow, why didn't I think of that? That makes sense. When the deities revealed themselves, who did they reveal themselves to? And that being said, and that's with any culture, the only people that can communicate with particular deities are the ones that the deities reveal themselves to, and their offspring. That is why you hear us often talk about spiritual DNA also, not only just physical DNA. The Yovo Shango was not revealed to the Yovo, or none of the Yovo, European Yovo, the Chinese Yovo, none of them, period. No African deity ever revealed itself in Europe, period. Now, let's say somebody from Mawufe went to Europe talking about African deity. That's about all they can do. That was no revelation in those people's spiritual DNA, the Yovo, for them to be able to worship this deity, period. So even if you buy into the they come from us and this and that, when those deities were revealed, because now let's back up a little bit. Those of you that really study Odu, you'll get this. Or study African cosmology in general, you get this. You'll get this. Some that don't, this might be a little more difficult for you to understand. There was a time when the deities were not revealed, had not been revealed to various African people. Mawufe Numeto. It talks about in the Odu Ifa all the time. It says when the deities decided to descend from heaven to earth to help with XYZ, and these people did not know about these particular deities at that time until they were revealed to them. It's real simple. It's right there in the Odu Ifa. Even in the Akan tradition, Boson Fie, or the Akom tradition of the Akan, Odinani of the Igbo, it always talks about a time when the deities were not actually revealed to human beings. Now, that does not negate the antiquity of the deities or the antiquity of African people. It's just that there was a time, for whatever Mawulisa's reasons were, Mawu Lisa being the creator in Vodun, that the deities just were not revealed. Then there came a time when there was no separation between the deities and the humans, and now we're in the age of Uga-Azi where we've gotten further away, and part of the reason we're further away because we want to make our traditions universal, and they're not. Judaism is not universal. The only people that can worship Yahweh is those white Jews. Period. There's no Hebrew Israelite, all that's made up. And they want to say that they were sold by Africans. You have to sometimes be thankful when those that are detrimental to your people single themselves out. So there is no going. You don't feel like you need to debate with a Hebrew Israelite or Nation Islam. Any of those people talking about we come from the tribe of Shabazz, lost tribe this, lost tribe that. So many lost tribes, they can't keep up with it. You don't have to debate with them more. None of that. Because you should be thankful that they have removed their extra baggage out of your way. Once again, as we said in the video about there's no unity without African culture. There's no black unity, African unity, nothing like that without true African authentic culture and way of life, not just putting on a dashiki or a gele, So you should be thankful when those people, especially when they're hell-bent on being like the Hebrew Israelites say, the African sold them. What was the difference between them and what there is no evidence of any Hebrew nothing in West Africa, period. So anyway, the Yovo, Chinese, Arab, so-called white, European, cannot worship African deities. Why? Because they do not have the spiritual DNA. They cannot communicate with them, no matter how many shrines they put up, how many physical initiations, because you have the physical part of the initiation, then you have the spiritual part. No matter how many physical initiations they go through, they still have what they had when they first came in, which is their Yovo self. Now, most of their, fake deities are not even in existence. We question if they ever were. But the best thing you could tell any Yovo to do is go and worship, Thor. What's wrong with Thor? Why? Think, Africans, think. Why is it that the Yovo who persecuted you for so long, that you've been at war with for 6,000 plus years documented, why all of a sudden are they flocking to your tradition and not to theirs as much as they used to? Some of them do. They're good. That's good. You stay over there. But have you ever thought about, and we're kind of talking to those that kind of accept the Yovo, right? When we ask this, have you ever thought about why? Now, we've heard some African people say, it is our duty to save them. Okay. In Tamaray, they thought it was, some of their sellout kings thought it was their duty to get foreign wives. And then it changed the whole complexion of Tamaray. And then the invaders came in, and now you don't have a Tamaray. You had it went from Tamaray to Egypt, to white Egypt, to Arab Egypt. So, what is history for? It's like we have no regard for history. And when you don't have regard for history, you have no regard for your ancestors, period. You're not learning the mistakes of history. You don't have respect for your past and your ancestors. So think about it. Those that sympathize with the Yovo and want them in the tradition or accept them, why do you think that they're running to our traditions? It is parallel with why you're having so many interracial foolishness situations, so-called interracial couples. They have an internal clock just like we have one. We have a louder one, but we still often don't listen to it. Theirs make them run by compulsion, meaning like a survival of the fittest thing. Even if you're not used to living in the woods, but if you're forced to live in the woods, you'll find out what's edible and not edible, what can heal and not heal. So they are driven by the fact that their time is running up. Their time is out, actually. And that's one thing we will agree with the Nation of Islam on, their time is up. So it's that internal thing that's scattering, like, where can I go? So it's kind of like certain insects. They lay eggs inside of another insect, and that insect and the eggs develop within that host insect, eating that insect alive for survival. It's like the movie when Denzel Washington played in. We think it's called Seven, where that spirit, it was weak, but it was strong because the humans did not understand it. So it would go from person to person, but it needed to do that to survive. But once a person realized how to get rid of them, that it was there and that it was a parasite, then at the end of the movie, they kind of get rid of it. So that's what they're doing. They are the parasites. They are the maggots. They have to try to survive. And what they do with the interracial thing, they are surviving through you. They know when they mate with you, and this is an internal know now, an internal clock, whereas they don't consciously know it. Some of them do. Some of your higher ups, your Fortune 500s, your scholars of the European Yovo race, they'll admit that to someone like myself. So yes, many of those on that upper echelon level, even some of the flower child kind of ones, they will admit that. They know this. The problem is you don't. And that is why you get engaged. It's funny, people are initiating Yovo, and then we remember a time when we were more on social media and whatnot. This woman, she initiated these Yovos, right? This Yovo woman in particular. And about a month later, got online writing articles talking about how racist these people are that are being, these non-Africans that are being initiated. But she kept on dealing with the non-Africans, and we thought that was hilarious, especially when she contacted us talking about it. We was like, we don't want to even hear that, why are you even contacting us about African traditions anyway, if you're selling them out to the first non-African coming along? So the same way with the host parasite thing, with the interracial thing, they know that they're probably 5% of the population of the whole world. And it's funny, they got everybody else calling themselves minorities, but they were like 5% of the whole world population, So they're trying to survive through African people. Look at how they're adopting African children, new African children and children from the continent. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So when they can't do it physically with a physical mutation from an interracial relationship, they start adopting children. And what they're doing, they're creating black-white children. So they're still creating an image of themselves. That's what they're doing. So in like manner, when they come to African traditions, they are trying to survive. They know that they have no ashe in their culture. Jews coming to so-called, as they call it, coming to Ifa, millionaire Jews. Why you think that is? And if you don't solidify around your tradition and come up with something that make a standard across the board, that A, we do not allow non-Africans, and B, those Africans that do allow it, they are banned from any kind of real communication with us, any recognition. We don't need nothing from them. And that goes for new Africans on the continent, wherever. If you're involved with the Yovo in any kind of way, outside of doing business, then there's an issue. And especially if you're selling your culture and you're laying in bed with them, you are now our enemy also. So we wanted to speak briefly on that, about why the Yovo cannot worship African deities. It reminds us, because this conversation shouldn't even never have to happen. It reminds us about the whole thing about when people always saying that they got Yovo blood, European blood, or want to know how much European blood they got. It shouldn't even matter. It shouldn't even matter. That conversation shouldn't even have to be. But here we are. We have been Axosu Àgèlògbàgàn Agbavi the First. RestorationHealing.com. Quilombo Restoration and Healing is our website. Odigba.